My name is Rita Gandelman, and where I'm from is an interesting question. Originally, I was born in Ukraine, lived in New York City for many, many years, and now living on this beautiful island of Hawaii. And what I do is also a really important question because it's changing what I do all the time. But there's only one thing that stays the same, which is the love and the passion that I have for what I do. I have a master's in occupational therapy, working with special needs children, primarily children on the autism spectrum. And my experience is pretty vast, about 20 years. As I delved deeply into this work, I decided that the ways of working in schools and working with special education was challenging for me because I really wanted to do something more creative and something outside of the box. So I decided to go on my own journey of self exploration, first and foremost, and then really looking for methods that see the compassion and seek to understand instead of fix. And that is something that profoundly changed my life. And the way that I approach the work that I do with families with special needs is really about seeing the family system, seeing what's out of balance, seeing what's hidden, and knowing how to really give that child a voice and be an advocate for the child, given the circumstances and the life that that child was born into. And as I say that, I'm realizing that I'm introducing already the topic that I'm very passionate about, which is family constellations. And I really, truly, what I do is I marry the family constellation approach with the special needs children that I've been working with and families for so many years. And right now, it's the culmination of that creativity that I'm bringing to you in this moment. Family constellations is an approach that was initially developed by a gentleman whose name is Bert Hellinger. He was born in Germany. He was a priest, and during the war, during the Nazi regime, he left and he was a missionary in Africa. And in Africa, he actually, something very different happened. Instead of him indoctrinating the Zulu tribes, the African tribes, into the Christianity and Catholicism, he actually learned their ways of how to deal with life's daily life events, how to work with the land, how to connect with nature, how to resolve issues and challenges that come up all the time. And he brought that knowledge, that ancient wisdom back to the Western world. And that's how Family Constellation was founded. It's a very in depth approach. Um, the best way that I can describe it is we're individuals living this life as an individual. Like I'm Rita and I'm living my life. I'm also part of a much bigger system. And the system that I'm specifically referring to is the family system. So I have a mom and a dad, just like any one of you watching. And your mom, dad have a mom and a dad, your grandparents, your great grandparents. So therefore, we come from this long, long, long history, and there's long lineage and many ancestors standing behind us. And we, the next of kin, carry that genetic code inside of us, inside of ourselves. And that DNA has memories. It doesn't only have the physical expression of eyes and skin and, the way we look like our biological parents very often. It also, our DNA carries the memories of the joy and the struggles and the events of our ancestors' lives. And science has proven this already a long time ago that everything gets passed on to the next generation, both the physical and the memories of their lived experience. What is really beautiful about this work is that we can take a look at what was hidden or what has been unseen in the family system that is influencing our lives today. And all our ancestors come from challenges such as genocide and wars and famine and natural disasters, etc., etc. And that's me speaking more about the collective that our ancestors lived in. But we also have individual experiences of parental divorce, loss of a loved one, like a mom or dad at a very young age, or a brother or a mother with mental illness or special needs, losing a child, incest, all these experiences, whether it's in this lifetime or the lifetime that your ancestors lived, they're all transferred and they all live in this DNA. And these memories show up in our lives. And when we're having health issues, when we have financial issues, intimacy issues, we can trace that back to the family system and find what is the root cause. And typically, as individuals, because of how deeply we are intertwined and how deeply we are connected and maybe dependent on our parents, we become absolutely blind and loyal to how we love. And the way we love is really, we take all of the parents, all of them as they are. We don't question anything, especially when we're young. We just absorb them fully. And we absorb their grandparents and great parents. And because naturally the family system is always seeking balance, if there has been someone who has been exiled or mistreated, for example, somebody like a mentally ill person dying alone in a mental hospital, or a baby that was aborted and nobody talks about, or a baby that was born, maybe your father, your mother, it's their second marriage, and they had a child with a previous husband or wife, and that child goes unacknowledged. Those kind of experiences, those kind of exclusions, or somebody who has been forgotten, live in the family system. And we, the next of kin, usually pick it up. So, just to give you an example, recently I was working with a woman. She kept on feeling that she could never truly feel that she deserved this life. She just couldn't really connect with it. And what really showed up is that her father actually had a son with a previous partner before he married her mother, and that baby was never acknowledged because her father left the family at when the baby was 9 months old. And it was very clear that she was identifying and trying to bring back this baby, this 9 months old, that she was carrying it in her heart and in her soul. She was clearly seeing that this baby was unacknowledged. This baby was left out. As her dad never talks about it and pretends like this baby doesn't exist. And she picks men that are very similar to brothers, and he's a half brother. And then she feels like she doesn't deserve life because he didn't get a father. He didn't have the same experiences as she had in this life because she had a father and a mother. So what happens is guilt gets created. Shame becomes something that is very powerful in this situation. So she was able to, through the lens of family constellation, acknowledge and honor this beautiful half brother that she has, even though she doesn't know him. And she was able to really take him into her heart and have this beautiful separation where he's living his life, he's living his faith, and she's living her life. And with honor and respect, she was able to release the guilt and release the shame. And in a family system, when we do this work, this is called the movement of the soul, where the stuck parts become unstuck and there is flow and there is more space for us to live this life the way we desire it. So now we have a choice the way we behave.
How long can this work last?
Sure, a fantastic question. What I have realized in the last few years is that a lot of things actually depend on the human being who shows up in front of me. First of all, it's a collaborative process. So I'm not working by myself. I'm not putting my ideas or my thoughts into the client who wants help. It's really the two of us. They come in with their own experience, their own intentions and desires. So we always set an intention when the client comes in. And what defines how long we work together is what is happening in their life and how can they receive the invisible subtle vibration that speaks and communicates to them through this um, work. And the work, this family constellation work that we're discussing, the way that we actually see what's invisible is something called the knowing field, which I would absolutely love to explain and discuss a little later. But the knowing field is very subtle. And when a client comes in who has experience in deep meditation, who has experienced hypnosis, who has experienced yoga and breath work, who has experienced shamanic work, these kind of clients typically get this work much quicker, and the transformation process seems to be a lot faster because the nervous system is wired to understand and relate to subtlety. So it's a very individual process. I have clients that I've worked with this over 3 4 years. I have clients that I did 2 sessions and they're done and they felt like really got a lot out of it and their lives transformed. I've seen a lot of magic, but it's really a very individual approach. And what you bring to it really matters.
Will doing the family constellation work alienate me from my family?
From what I consistently seen with this work is that when we change, we actually influence our family system without the family needing to be present. This work is focused on compassion, acknowledgement, and really accepting life as it comes our way. It's not about disconnect because clients who come to me are already feeling numb and disconnected. We are here to connect and create the flow of love where the love was stuck. So, to give you an example from my own life, my relationship with my mom has always been a little challenging. And where we are now is, I can't say my mom is any different than what I've known her to be, but I have so much softness and love and compassion for her because I understand where she comes from. I get it. I get why she's the way she is. I understand her fears. I understand her aloneness. And I don't have to push her away anymore. I don't feel burdened by her neediness anymore. I just feel really a lot of love. Doing this work brings more love, more compassion, much more softness into you, and gives you a deeper connection with your family, even if your family members are no longer alive. And that's actually a very big part of what I do. This family constellation systems, actually, it's an approach that allows you to work with family members that have not been around for many, 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 many years, even generations.
What about my kids?
What happens is, as the person who comes in, so either me or you or someone who comes to me, and I've done a lot of my own constellations, we are clearing the past, the wounds and the traumas that have occurred before us, the ancestors whose shoulders we stand on. We're actually able, as the next generation, by looking at the victims, by looking at the perpetrators, by looking at the wars and the genocides and the incest and people who have died unjustly, by seeing them, we're actually, by observing what occurred, we're actually shifting the narrative that was handed down. We are actually seeing it for what it is, and we're able to change what occurred, and we're letting that river of love and energy flow now without being stuck to the next generation. So the past is healing and transforming as we do the work in the present, and the future generation, my future experiences, as well as my children or the children of my clients, get to live a life where their past no longer defines their future, and the family history and the trauma is no longer actually influencing their behavior or their belief system.
What kind of modality is family constellations?
I would say family constellation is an energetic approach that has a very clear relationship with psychology of the mind, because there are very clear patterns that show up, that show us why somebody feels guilty, that show us why somebody could feel insecure, that show us why somebody could want to take their life or want to be depressed. So there is a psychological aspect to it, but that is the smallest part. This work is really about tuning into the invisible field and really seeing what's there and really accepting the events that occurred and accepting the people that lived a life that was challenging and where they had suffered and where they didn't have certain choices, accepting and looking at it. But we can only understand and look through it through this knowing field that I keep referring to, where we could see the system and the entanglements that actually lived before we were actually born. Bypasses logical mind. It lives much more in the body. I always invite the clients to please, please feel and sense what's happening in the body. That is the most important information when we're doing this work.
Do you only offer this in person or can this work be done online?
So I have been able to do this work in person and online. Ever since COVID, I've been able to offer this online, in groups and individually, and it works online as well as it works face to face.
Mm. What if I do not remember the stories of my parents? Can I still do this work?
Absolutely. A lot of clients ask that question because we have been so disconnected from our ancestors. We don't know their history. We don't know their story. We don't know what they've been through. So when they come in, because we tap into this knowing field that has absolutely all the information that is necessary for us to know what occurred, we don't really need to know the specific events. As long as we're willing to open our hearts and we're willing to tune in at the discomfort that shows up. If there is a heaviness, if there is grief, if there is sadness or anger, or sense of loss that shows up in the body. And when we set up the family system, all of those elements show up naturally as long as we're not adding our own narrative to it and we're not in the way. Would like to really share what it means, what actually the knowing field is. That's the biggest part of the family constellations. The knowing field, the way that I typically describe it is, imagine you're walking into a room and you don't know anyone. And immediately you sense this person feels really comfortable. I would really love to talk to them. And then you sense, well, this person feels like they're a little on the edge. I should kind of like maybe avoid them. I don't really feel like I'm drawn to talk to them. So you're in that, I would say, information field where you're constantly getting information through your body from the environment. What's safe, what's not safe, what is visible, what's invisible. And you're constantly navigating this field all the time, no matter where you are. So when we step into the knowing field in the family systems, we're right away stepping into this knowing field. And this knowing field communicates to us because it holds information about the entire human evolution. It holds information about everything that ever occurred, about you individually, about the collective, about your family system, about the entire planet. So when we set an intention and we slow down and we really tune in, we get this information that comes in natural through the body. So this is where we start to feel sensations, emotions. We feel angry, we feel sad, we feel turned on, we feel coldness, we feel heaviness. We feel like we don't want to look at somebody, or we want to turn away, we want to close our eyes. We feel like we're 7 years old. This type of sensations start to show up immediately, and there's no experience needed. And this information field is so, so powerful. And that is exactly where the constellation actually happens. And it allows us to see what has been invisible, and it gives us a very large and very much bigger perspective on life, and it allows us to broaden our horizons and keep an open mind and have more compassion for ourselves and for our family and the people around us.
Thank you so much, Rita, for sharing.